Story with Stuart and to give you some insights around how we do what we do, and going from a very, I guess, a high place, we're going to go into the nitty-gritty. We're big how people, and a lot of people tend to want to know our schedule and our timetable. It's been very much a journey of how do we do everything with what we do. I don't know if a lot of you are aware, but most of you are. We're pregnant with our third child now. So let me just make sure this is up.
That couldn't possibly help
Okay.
It's just, it's just.
Hang on. Give it a bit.
That's the 2023 So they have to down. Yeah, required now.
Okay, good. Excellent. So, do you want to give these guys a bit of a summary of what we've done and where we've come from?
Where we've come from. So, it all began about 4 years ago, I guess, from when Natasha started off. I'll talk about more where I came in. So I was in a position where I was comfortable, love TV, like most of us, I guess. You don't know what you don't know. So you use your energy, you spend your energy where you feel it's serving you best, rather than from a place that we understand now. But actually, you're better off serving others than serving yourself. So you have to discover that, and there's no right time when it happens or wrong time when it happens. It's just something twigs within you. And for everybody, it's different. But it will happen, and it happens at the point it happened to me when we had a life-defining moment, whereas decisions that I made for a business that we were involved in didn't work. They weren't the right decisions, penalised our family, penalised me for my confidence. And I guess within ourselves, where our relationship went for a little while. Because it doesn't go to a good place all of the time. And everybody that's offering a relationship, if your relationship's not right with yourself, your relationship's not going to be right with anybody. So people that are struggling to find a date, find anything, it's within you. So you're not putting out what you're putting out. And that happens when it's in your own relationships. So there was something that happened, and then I saw Natasha just start to develop, grow, move along, and it was either come along for the ride. We know what the alternative is. So when someone's strong, and from my experience growing up with probably not strong women in my life, people that just survived. I didn't have men around that weren't strong women. Coming up and seeing Natasha grow was like, okay, how do we work this out to make it work? So a lot of the time it was working, what's my value, what's my number one values, and what's her number one values. And so I worked out that my number one value was family. So why couldn't we reverse the roles? Just because people said you can't do it. That's BS. You do what works. And the minute I decided, this was probably now 18 months ago, that this was really the way it worked and what gave me the most enjoyment, we said, okay, let's switch it. And ever since then, energy levels flow. And once you have that energy level that can flow out from you, it can also then flow in from you. And that's what people, when you're trying to fight what you actually know is right, that's when you're really going to have issues of not being able to grow and develop where you want to be. So yeah, so it was then, okay, step up, like off the bench tonight. If this happened even 6 months ago, would have been, oh, Jesus, I'm getting up and talking. I don't do this, this isn't what I'm great at. But I'll get up because I know that there's something that I need to be able to share with people, because a lot of other people are going through the same stuff. Could be with their partner, could be with themselves. So yeah, so getting on board and then doing a lot of stuff more within the business. I was able to resign from my management job about 18 months ago now. So yeah, being really in the business, working how we can do it the best that we can do it in the last 18 months, and it's got to a point where yeah, it's a comfortable flow for both of us, because we know what our strengths and our weaknesses are. And I guess once you work that out and don't pick faults, she's strong at that, I'm strong at this, let's get up and make a job of it.
Yeah, it definitely has been a journey of a lot of changes, and you know what they say, couples that grow together stay together, and it was very much a what Stuart said. If he didn't one day have the penny drop that he needed to start growing and catch up to where I was getting to, yeah, it wouldn't have ended up the way the way it has now, third baby on the way. And, you know...
At least 50% responsible. That's a guarantee that.
You'll get blamed for it, but
the baby making machines, we just have to decide next month. Yeah, so, yeah, look, and certainly that defining moment that Stuart spoke about was, you know, that rock bottom that often people hit and go, shit, you know. And like Kath actually said, I think in the beginning of your talk about where you were inserting non-appreciating and blame towards your husband, I was doing the same when that happened, as if I was actually expecting him, my happiness was reliant on his performance in his role and job and supporting me and all that kind of stuff. My soon-to-be new mentor actually sent me a list of sabotaging behaviours that I posted in our inner circle last night, and a few of those had a lot to do with how we sometimes expect others to make us happy or you know. And like Stuart said, yeah, my number one value is educating myself and others, and business, personal development, all that kind of stuff, which is why I love you know, doing these things. And it works. If it works, that's all that matters. Doesn't matter what other people say. So we are often, we make the voices in our heads louder than the voices on the outside. Because you know what? The more successful you become, the more backlash you're going to experience. The higher quality problems that you're going to have. And we see this incrementally happen each and every year. And we see, you know, phases where, you know, a lot of stuff would happen and then you're transitioning into the next journey or the next phase of growth. So on that note, let's get into the strategies that we want to share with you tonight. These are things we do together, and some are separately, like for our time, how we manage our time. So many people are constantly wanting to look at my diary, my schedule, and I thought, well, my inner circle asked me, could you run a webinar on this? And we did that on Monday, and I thought, oh, this is a good topic I could bring tonight and give you some tangibles. I love giving people things to do. So let's go through them. So why would you want to manage your time a lot better? Certainly, you want to work smarter and not harder. I grew up with a belief that you've got to work hard to make lots of money. My mum worked in 3 jobs. So unlike Stuart, I was raised by 4 very strong women. My mum, her 2 sisters, and my grandma. I had no male role models around me. I actually grew up with a belief that also men can't financially look after women. Those 2 beliefs, I'm still trying to smash through. I am getting smarter. Each and every year I'm getting smarter, and we have 3-day weekends every weekend. We don't work Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Tomorrow morning we're off, 4 nights away in Dramana, we're going to Bali. We spent 3 months of the year travelling. When we calculated last year how much we were away, it was 3 months out of the 12, which is really awesome. So it's, for us, it is about lifestyle. So spending more time doing the things you love, achieving your goals a lot faster. This is a big one with these kind of strategies. Leveraging your time, getting more done in less time. Because who here sometimes spends 15, 16 hours working, and at the end of the day, perhaps you haven't been as productive because you're just so tired and just keep going and going and going. Russell, the Time Lord, actually, who spoke to this event a few months ago, he said, you've got to stop, otherwise your productivity drops off. So you may as well stop, go have a rest and come back. And probably in an hour you'll knock out what it would have taken you 5 hours to do.
And the biggest one that he came up with as well is the last hour that you're spending in the day, you're spending that on your computer, just stop doing it an hour before, because that last hour you're not doing anything.
Yeah.
Not your productivity in that last hour, you're better off just having a deadline. He introduced just a deadline, so if your deadline's, it will be different for everybody. Let's say it's 9 o'clock at night. If you normally work till 10, make it 9 o'clock, that's your deadline, because if you know that's your deadline, you'll be more productive in the hour leading up to your deadline than if you don't have a deadline and you just continue it on that next hour. So just implement that one, and straight away I think you'll find that your productivity will change.
I often ask myself the question when I want to be working past 8 or 9 o'clock at night, am I really being effective, or I'm just floundering and getting tired from the computer screen and all that sort of stuff?
Just doing it because you think you have to be doing it. You think that your business deserves it, or especially your partner. You need to show that your partner, if they're not on board with your journey, that you need to show your partner or yourself that you're working. And if you're not doing anything productive, you're not doing yourself a service.
So let's go through our top 10 winning strategies for life and business. I never teach anyone something I don't do already. I don't think you possibly can, otherwise people feel it on you energetically that you're a fake. So also the books that we write are really the books we write for our past selves, don't we? That's what we do. We're teaching our past self what they needed to know now. And this is what we do, is these are the things we would have been talking to about, this is how you can be more effective. And you know what, guys, these 10 strategies didn't come up overnight. Actually, they were developed over the 4 years since we've been in business. We were crap at the beginning, and slowly, when pain hit and struck, we got better. And I go, okay, change this, let's do this, let's do that. So each year, probably we added a couple of these. So it wasn't all 10 that we've been doing from day one. Yeah? So quit multitasking. Who's a woman? Everyone multitasks. Did you know that it takes 4 times longer to complete each task if you're say you're multitasking 4 tasks, that if you did them separately it would take you 1 hour, then if you're multitasking it will take you 4. Okay? So this is very important where you know how sometimes you have all those little admin things to do like emails, or do a Facebook post, or someone has called you, you've got to return a call. I started a list of those mini tasks, and then I would separate an hour where I would sit down and just knock them all out, rather than being, oh, I'm having a session here now, I'm going to send an email here, I'm going to make a phone call here. So doing a list of those small things, it's very important and really easy to do. Just buy a thing, notebook, and start a to-do list.
And in here as well, I think it's really important to do, if you have a task list of 6 things that you need to do for the day, actually in your diary, allocate the time that you're going to do the specific task, rather than just have them all on a to-do list. So between 9 and 10, you're actually going to do 8. Between 10 and 15, if it's a 2-hour job, you'll allocate. So work out roughly how long it will take and allocate it, and then just tick it off as you go along. So rather than you being daunted by 6, 8, 10 things on there, schedule that time in to actually do the task. You'll find that you're a lot more
What does
productive.
Tony Robbins say?
What
What gets scheduled gets done, which is, I schedule absolutely pretty much everything. And whenever my mum rings me, she wants me to do something, I go, first thing you're going to tell me is to grab my diary. Because if you're going to tell me on the phone, help me with this, and I haven't written it down, I ain't going to help you. I probably will forget, and not because I don't want to. So I always said that to her. And actually clustering time, I have even gone another level this year. From January I started working in my business on Mondays and Tuesdays, so seeing all of my clients, and Wednesdays and Thursdays on my business. Gosh, has that made a huge difference. Like, it's just the focus on what happens in those 2 days versus the other 2 days is just amazing. So that's just another thing that you could potentially do, and there's lots of different activities within all of that. But yeah, be very mindful of those blips for emails and social media, because they're so distracting. I mean, I don't need to say, everyone knows how distracted we are by even our mobile devices always buzzing us. The $30,000 list. Okay, so this came from a book that I read called Miracles Happen by Mary Kay Ash. You guys know Mary Kay Cosmetics from America? You're nodding, yeah? So she wrote a book, and within this book she talked about this lady who taught her this strategy. There was a lady who walked into a corporate organisation and told the CEO, let me spend 10 minutes with each of your managers or executives, and if you think that was worth whatever it is to your company, you can send me a check to whatever amount you think that was worth. And surely enough, a couple of months later, she received this $30,000 check. Now back then, this is talking 30 years ago, this is probably like $500,000 right now. And she received it and she was stoked, but the CEO phoned her and said, you've got to tell me what you told them. What the hell did you tell them? Because our productivity has dropped double or triple. And she said, oh, all I told them is the night before, they will complete their top 6 to-do list for the next day. Why 6? It's not too little, so it's like, not challenging enough, but it's also not too long to make it really, really overwhelming. So that's what she said, and then I got them to list it from most important to least important, so they complete the eat the frog kind of stuff in the morning, and then go through it. If they didn't get through it, then they would move it across the undone tasks to the following day. we started doing this, I'm doing this every night, and I'll show you where this list comes, like the daily list comes from, because that's the next bit which we'll talk about. So the $30,000 list is what she said, and Mary Kay then also did it for herself, and she said, I have, always had this successful business, and that is because I've consistently done this particular list. So I thought, if they're doing it, I'm going to do it. Obviously they're successful, so what successful people do? Yeah? Alright, talk us through the Sunday meeting, Stuart.
Sunday meeting. So for the guys in the room, what happens when your partner comes up and says we want to talk? Does that ever go well? The women in the room, when you say, have you ever said you want to talk and you want to say, I really, really love you? Doesn't normally happen. So we run we worked best for us is on a Sunday. We enjoy our weekends, we always have. When I was doing my retail management, I was working a lot of weekends. So weekends are quite precious to me now. When we're doing an event or a function or whatever needs to be done as business owners, we just do it. But we value the weekends. But on Sunday afternoon, fun time's done, let's sit down and get a bit of planning going. And it's really important. We're a little bit different because we're in business together. But a lot of you, if you've got your partners, it's still great to sit down and have anything else but the talk. So I come up with, we use terms and you can say, let's have a chat, let's have a coffee, just use a word that a guy will find works best. So then you can actually get through the stuff and make it a little bit more fun. So we sit down and we actually talk about what happened during the week, so what our outcomes were, if there's any opportunities that we've had, or if there's any problems that we need, any challenges, not problems, any challenges or cancel that we need to solve. So anything that we want to get the other person, because although we run the business together, we're doing very different tasks and we're seeing different people at different times. So if you're not communicating what's going on, you've got no idea what's going on. And then we work out, okay, so what do we then want to plan for the week? So with our ultimate business support group, what's the intention we want to have with there? Have we got any follow-up with clients? What do we actually want to do? We set some goals for ourselves for the week.
Yeah, weekly goals,
really
which are aligned, 3
3
small goals for what we want to achieve. Like if we want to convert X amount of clients, whatever that is, it can be different every week.
So one of them might be just to run a great event tonight.
Yeah.
Give a lot of value to everybody that's attended. So it's not a monetary, it's not a get a client. They all vary. So that's one of the big ones because we believe in giving value where we can. So that's one of the
I think last week I said relax and look after myself because I was just getting really tired, and one of my goals was just to achieve that, and that was okay. So you can make them personal as well, even though 80% can end up being business. So yeah, check off your list from the previous week. So we kind of come up with this list of tasks and we put that in stew and what are all of those things, and this is the list that I would then use to do my top 6 things. Because if I looked at that whole list, it's so long for the week, don't even want to go near it. And also I have this tendency that I want to complete it in one day because I'm like, just get it done. So I'll pull off little things for the top 6 list. And then plan weekly actions that will make up top 6 list today. So I used to do this meeting before Stuart was part of the business just with myself. There's no reason why you can't do it with yourself. This way it's great to hold each other accountable. You said you were going to do this, and there's no so he said it, so obviously there's a reason why he hasn't done it if he hasn't, and it's good that way. It's like you can't slack off on each other. It's kind of, Alright, is this stuff valuable? Yeah, good. Okay. Create boundaries. So usually when you start off in business, I used to bend over backwards for my clients. I used to travel to the Docklands and back home after my day job, which I didn't feel comfortable telling my client that I had a day job. So I'd finish at Specsavers at 5:30, which is when the shop closed. I'd have the session scheduled for 6:30 or 7, so I can get to the Docklands, go to the session and come back home by 9 or whatever, 10 o'clock. And I used to even stay longer than say the hour, because I wanted to add value. So this happens, and it's okay early on in business to provide the best customer service, but there comes a day where you just got to have, when you're more in demand, like Kathy's, you've got to set, and us as well, we've got to set clear boundaries. And from last year, I started reframing my clients and saying, next year we're going to be doing our sessions either on a Monday or a Tuesday. Is that okay with you? These are the reasons. And if they weren't okay, then it was okay for me to let them go. Okay? So, boundaries are also about Facebook as well. It's a big one. I do my best to not be on Facebook between, say, Friday evening to Sunday afternoon. So will you be on Facebook on Saturdays? What are your days off? You know, do you schedule days off? Certainly in the beginning, you perhaps don't have, I don't feel like I had a day off in 18 months when I was starting the business. When do you stop working during the week? So what are your hours? Last year I also had a goal not to work 2 out of the 4 nights. So I intensely work Monday to Thursday, but I tend to work really late. So now I had a goal that I would only work 2 nights a week till late, and then I would finish about 6 o'clock 2 of the other nights. And I'm achieving that. It's never the same nights, but it's happening in my schedule because I set their intention. Will you respond to email and phone calls on the weekend? I certainly did this, you know, and it's a boundary that you've got to decide and create. How are you going to be towards your clients? What days do you see your clients and what days do you work on your business? So this is where I said, you know, how I clustered everything. Anything to add?
Yeah, definitely. This was a big thing early on for our son, who was at the time about 3, starting to have the awareness of what was going on. So one of the times he came out, they got a new phone, and his comment was just out of the blue. She was all excited, showing him the new stuff. You love that phone more than me. And you know, that's a big hit. So what are we showing our children? Or if you don't have children, what are we showing our partner? What are you valuing more? Are you valuing that connection when you're having a switch off time? Are you answering the phone when they're talking to you? That doesn't work. That's not sustainable, and it's just not having any connection with people. You're only connected to, this is a big thing, you're connected to your device more than people tend to be connected to the things around them. That can be their friends, their family, their partners. Yes, a lot of business is done online, but you need to just have that awareness about what you're showing other people, and it's the young children that you normally really struggle with. So when we were having our conversations, it was, okay, phone and computers are away, because you've got to have that switch. You've got to realise that it's more important to have that connection with the people that are really important. Yes, your clients are important, but if we asked anybody here, who's more important, your family or your clients? We might think as though we've got to be giving to the clients, but you've got to have that connection that way. Otherwise, it's a big
So
challenge.
you're going to have the healthy boundaries here,
Yes.
not limited or non-existent or loose or porous, and definitely we can't be a brick wall that, you know, people can't penetrate us. So yeah, you're completely right, and it's how we're conditioning also our clients. We teach others how to treat us. Yeah, we teach our clients how to treat us. We teach our children. They'll grow up soon and they'll have their iPads. You know, so yeah. Book regular holidays. This has to be on the list. I believe as an entrepreneur, you work 4 times harder than an employed person. Would you guys agree? Yeah? I would go as far as saying 4 times harder. And that means that you need time to recharge. That's why, like, I've just put in 3 months of really intense work. We're about to go to Bali in a couple of weeks' time. And I'm so looking forward to it. As Stuart said, I'm in preservation mode. I started to say the other day, oh, I feel like I'm in shutdown mode. And he said, listen to your language. Look, he's pulling me up. He goes, why don't you say instead you're in preservation mode? And this is where you heard him say cancel before. I was listening to the silver method. Have you guys heard of that? Some of you know the silver method. It's just a method, I think, similar, say, to NLP or something like that. So I was going to a speaking event in the morning in Peninsula, and I was listening to this, and they said when you're using that negative language, or if you use something, a language that you know it's not positive, like what he's had problems or something like that, you say cancel, and just correct yourself, and then apparently mentally it's meant to sort of wipe that out because you're not embedding it. So I've been doing it since I heard it on the CD. I told them. Cancel. Huh? Okay, there you go, another one. So the reason you're doing this is to enjoy the lifestyle with your family and doing all of this, and that this is where we get to connect, because yes, it's not like a regular household, being mumpreneurs, dadpreneurs, where you kind of finish at a certain time, have your dinner, you know, you have a play, whatever it is. There is intense times of when you're doing your work, and you're implementing and you're out there and getting business, And then there is that time where you completely switch off and you reconnect with everyone, and that carries you through to the next time. So that's why we go away at least, well, we said, we broke it down. We don't go away like, say, 3 months at a time, we'll go 2 weeks. I was in Europe for 5 weeks, we had Christmas that whole month off, and then we had about 10 to 15 long weekends, like we hire houses through stays, and we just go anywhere within 2 hours from Melbourne to just be, away from the home, because who here works from home? So 80% of the room. Yeah, work's really anchored at home, isn't it? So we feel like we need to change that environment. Use this downtime to be creative. Did you know that during your focus time you cannot be creative? Monday to Thursday I cannot be creative. I'm focused, I'm doing my stuff. It's when you actually switch off that you get this flood of ideas coming up. And so there's 2 times you have. Your creative time is when you wind down, you go on holidays, and your focus time is when you're actually doing work. So you need that time if you want your business to grow. I'm taking a whole notebook away with me this weekend and in Bali just to come up with all these new cool ideas. It will give you something to look forward to, because the minute I get tired, I go, it's coming. And it's always 3 or 4 trips a book ahead of time for the whole year. And you will return with renewed energy and enthusiasm for your life and business, because there's times when you go, I can't do this anymore. I'm not passionate about this. This is not for me. I don't know why I even started this business. Is that right?
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the other things, it's a taboo subject, but we can rule out, so we can talk about it here. Women need to be creative to actually want to have sex. Okay, they need to be in a creative side. So that's when often, when people do go on holidays, there's a lot more sex. Because they can tap into their more creative side, and then when they're creative, they're actually come from a different space and a different place. And that's just something to be aware of, and got to ask yourself the question if you relate to that.
It's interesting. But it's true.
From a lot of
I'm
people.
going away for a month. Yeah, that's right. Well, it's lovely. I'm going to go away for a week.
Consistency has been a big thing. This is not how to do it, but how to be in your business, and that is that consistency is key. If you do that, if you're consistent in what you're doing over a period of time, it's a numbers game. You are going to reach to success. The journey to success is not about luck. It's about taking a logical set of steps. Some people will get there sooner, some people will get there later, only because of their, say, talents, skills, resources, whatever it is, but they will get there. It's when they stop doing it, or they have this activity of up and down, up and down, up and down, that they do a disservice to themselves and lose momentum. So, do you know how long it takes to build momentum back up after you've had a break?
6 weeks.
Depends on how long your break was. I've worked it out because of the breaks that I've been taking. Double the time your break was. Okay, so if you go away for 1 week, it'll take you a couple of weeks to build momentum back up. That's what I've experienced so far. Sometimes, like last year when I went away for 5 weeks in Europe, I built up so much momentum up until the time before I went. I didn't feel it, that it left me when I came back home. It just kept going. Sometimes you can do that and it can carry you through. But generally, especially if you're early on in business, if you stop, yeah, you're going to take double the time. If you're later on, it's not as bad. And it shows others that you're serious about what you're doing. It makes you look professional. If you keep turning up, people know they can rely on you. Is that right? You've got to keep turning up no matter what. Any event I've had said, and I've said to people, I once did an event in front of one person. One person, I still turned up. I had my mum actually come with me to the event, and she was the second person in the audience. It was in a chiropractic centre, and then the chiropractor and her assistant sat. So I ended up having 4 people bodies. I just had the bodies. And you know, this one person turned into a 12-month client, $7,000 package. But I turned up and they said, do you still want to do it? I said, I'm here. It's experience. I want to do it. The person's invested their time in me. I invested the time in them. I used to attract 4 to 6 people to my workshops. In second year, I attracted 6 to 10. Nowadays, I'm attracting about 20, 25 people. I'm anticipating the next couple of years I will attract 50 or more. It just builds from there, but you've got to keep turning up. People have got to know who you are. This is where the credibility comes in. Yeah.
This is a huge one with people that I help with social media, so they all get all
Yeah.
gung-ho, they'll
Yeah.
put 15 posts on the first day, they flood everybody's timeline, everyone gets pissed off with them, and then the next day they'll do 7, the next day they'll do 3, and then they won't do anything for 2 weeks. And they say, oh, it's not working, I'm not getting anyone commenting, you're not putting anything up there. Be front of mind, put something up every day, get into the habit, schedule it, just be consistent. Well, no one's going to know you, and it's not going to work. And you get only left asking the question, well, I've invested into this, why is it not working? Like Natasa always teaches, if you invest in something, use it. You know, commit to using it. Whether you put your money in or you haven't so much as generously offered their time, make sure that you are actually putting in and being consistent.
Yeah, totally. And social media didn't start working for me. I've been on social media since 2008. What is it now, 6 years? It really ramped up for me from 2 years ago. Everything else prior to that was face-to-face meetings and all that kind of stuff. But I was consistent from day one. So I believe social media is the very last thing that sometimes works for a new business owner until they build up that awareness around them. Yeah. So 7 is ask for help. You're not an expert in absolutely everything. You don't always have to pay for expert help. Sometimes when we arrive at events like these, we walk away with ideas and aha moments and maybe some solutions that would have taken us ages to work out. Justin and I were talking about that, about your early day, Justin, the other day when we had our time together, you know, how you sort of asked people around you, and it wasn't always that you had to pay for that advice, but you build those relationships.
Best advice is free. Best advice is for free.
Yeah. And, you know, Charlie and I had a meeting earlier today, and he's got this set of, you know, expertise that would benefit us and people we help. So it's like, oh wow, this exists. You know, it's like, you know, it's good to get that awareness and know. And this is why we also work with mentors, because they're showing us their shortcuts. We don't want to take 10 years to get to where we want to be, but you've got to invest sometimes in the shortcuts. You've got to have skin in the game sometimes. Not sometimes, you've got to have skin in the game. Otherwise, you're not committed to that journey. There's not as big a commitment to it. Or maybe there's none. Yeah.
Who here struggles asking for help? For all of us, who finds it hard to ask for help?
Yeah, straight up, stubborn as hell.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So it's normally a fear of we're not good enough, they think we're not smart, we're not this. Yet then I ask you the other question, if someone came to you and asked you for help, what's the first thing you want to do? Every single person in the room just to help them. So you want to help everybody, so you'll help them if someone asks you. Every other person in the room just said you'd be willing to help. So why do we get hung up on asking for help? Because it's about us, it's not about the other person who's going to think less of us. Not at all. They're going to be, if I was to ask Justin, I can guarantee he would not only chew my ear off, he would tell me everything that he knew to help me, and he wouldn't expect anything back in return. And there are people like that out there. You know, and that's what I love about him. He's just so willing to give, and that's why he gets stuff back in return. So don't be afraid to ask for help. And if people can't help you, they will say.
Oh my God, I wasted so much time in that year 1. I was developing my own websites. What the hell do I know about websites? Trying to work out how to do something, and it was the stupidest thing ever. But God, so many hours went by me trying to work this stuff out. And people still do it. Like if they were at year 1 now and they didn't know this, just go and, you know, invest in it, or wait till you have enough money and then get the expert to do it. Don't waste your time. Focus on the money-making activities, and that is go meet people face to face, go network, go until you make the money to have the websites made professionally.
Yeah, it's not as if not to try, because you've got to at least give it a go, and that's probably where you come from, Charlie. You want to solve it yourself, work it out yourself.
Yeah, that's where it always comes from. It's like, oh, what do you mean? I can't do this? You're kidding me? No, I can do it. They can do this. I can definitely do this.
This leads us into the perfect next point, which is focus on money-making actions, which is where in the early days, which Stuart, when he quit his day job, he often spent the first 3 or 4 months behind a computer. I said, I need your help. I need you to focus on, you can tell the story.
Yeah, but it was also, that was what we defined the role as well. Also,
Yeah.
you've got to remember. So I was a back-end person, but also that wasn't my skill set. I come from retail sales, from managing other people, doing all of this other thing. And the only thing I really thought we could do for the business was the back end. So I was trying to teach myself, a non-tech person, tech stuff. And it was okay, so this is, but does it bring you closer to money? Well, it might, but entering things off a list into a database, communicating via people through email, doing stuff like that, it's not necessarily going to take you closer to money. Whereas getting out to go into a networking event and saying, hi, this is what I do, is taking you closer to money. So you've got to focus on those things. It's very easy because it's comfort zone type of stuff. Very easy to just do everything else nice and quietly here and say, yeah, I'm working my ass off, which you might well be, but are you working to get you where you really want to go? And if you're not, the question might also be, do you really want to get there? So that's the thing that a lot of people sometimes can't get grasped. They kind of want to get there, but they don't.
Another self-sabotage behaviour.
Emmy? Sorry, Emmy. Yeah.
No, one really interesting thing that ties into this is I spent a lot of time in my early days just coordinating time with my client, and a lot of my clients are based in Europe because I've mentioned them over the phone and stuff, and the time difference and all this stuff. And then I found that there's a system online where you can do that. It costs $50 a year, and I was like, hallelujah! Because all I do now is send them a link and say, choose your time zone, and job done. And I can focus more of my time on doing stuff that makes money rather than admin stuff. So it's just like, again, just sort of ask people, because people know so much if you just ask them.
Yeah, this stuff is keeping busy for the sake of being busy, although it is necessary, but it can be done in not off-peak times. And this kind of stuff, book yourself solid in peak times. Like I learned this from someone in about year 1 towards the end. He said, if you're new in business and you need clients, book yourself solid as if you have clients. Like fill your diary up with coffee chats, meetings, networking events, you're in front of people, and soon enough you're in that state, you're going to start replacing those meetings with actual proper paying clients. So you've got to be booked out solid, especially peak times.
I love one. It's the first time we've run the event where we haven't had a VA here saying, how can you not be outsourced? Isn't it? First time we've ever not had one here.
Yeah. Yeah. Also, though, outsourcing sometimes is not feasible for people early on. Yeah. And the last couple of points is they're a bit of mindset points. I guess not so much things to do, but being patient. It's taken time to build relationships, to get to know people, to expand that network over the years. I was saying to Charlie, my business grows because of the relationships. That saying your network equals your net worth? It is so true. Yeah, and remember, and I often say, sometimes the person I meet today results in a sale in 6 to 12 months later, and sometimes longer. I've had people on my list for 2.5 years that have come back and become clients. So keeping in touch and continuing to build that trust regularly is important. Okay? Time management is something that needs to be fine-tuned regularly to fit what you want in. So as I said, revisit your schedule, because there's difference. Your business will grow at different levels, and each time you're going to reach certain pain points. An example of this was last year. We were licensing people under Ultimate Weight Loss, under Ultimate Business Edge. We had the Inner Circle, and silly me, I was doing 3 support calls for these 3 groups. And I go, oh, one day I went, why don't I just merge them all into the Inner Circle? Because these old people were listening to me. My stuff is no different for this group than for this group than for this group. And I said, I'll just do 1 call a month. And I just won myself 3 or 4 hours back in time and energy, because I was running these 90-minute support calls with 3 different groups, which is similar. And then I recorded it, and people can access it. I'm building a library, more product, and all that sort of stuff. So revisit your schedule, and this is where you will fine-tune your time strategies.
Just a quick one. When you're new in business as well, it's really great if you can find somebody else that's newish in business as well, or doing something. You so often can't audit yourself, or you don't actually know if you're using your time effectively, and just because you think this is the way I do it is the best way. And if you can sometimes have a little bit of chat, it can be as simple as a coffee chat and say, so how do you do your email system? How do you do your customer follow-up? How do you do this? And you get a collective brain that way at least, and you might find that you can save yourself hours in your week just through doing something the way that another person doesn't, because they've got more experience in that thing. So it's a really good thing when you're new in business, just set up that coffee chat. One, you're getting to make a new acquaintance, you're getting to find somebody else, and you just might be able to save yourself a lot of time that way.
Yeah, and the last point is very important. You're the person that controls your time, isn't that right? You're the one that needs to also decide when you're going to have time off. I remember early on, us sitting with Peter, my first mentor on this journey, and I said, I just feel like I can't switch my computer off on Fridays or something. You know, maybe I should tell Stuart and my mum to tell me off when I'm on my computer. And Peter said, Nat, he goes, they're not responsible for you turning off your computer. You don't put responsibility on other people to tell you when to stop doing that. You have to do it yourself. And that was when the penny dropped. I can't expect other people to control my time. It's impossible. So, you know, if you feel a lack of time, what are you getting out of being so busy? So where is that positive intention? A lot of it behind this is the effect is busyness. The cause is often loneliness. So people keep busy because they don't want to be lonely.
In a relationship can be lonely. So you don't need to be single to suffer from that. So you can often be being busy because you don't want to go and face what's really happening in your relationship. You can be busy because you don't want to be doing something else or have to go and do something else.
And I'll put who's a control freak in this room? Come on! There's more of you, I know. So being a control freak is the effect. Do you know what the cause is? Take a guess. You know, self-esteem or something like that. Feeling unsafe. You're unsafe. Yeah. So every time I try to control something, like an example, we're driving down back from Mornington Peninsula for one of our weekends. It was raining, pissing down. Stuart's driving, and I wasn't comfortable with the space between the car in front of us. And I said, Darl, you're too close to that car, we can't brake if you... And I was making him, I was blaming, I was like saying you're a bad driver, I was finger pointing, and then what did you say back to me? You said, shut up, I'm driving the car, So what happened is, and then I stopped, and then I remembered that, and I said, oh my God, I was trying to control the situation because I was feeling unsafe. And his biggest fear of being this about being seen as incompetent. So he got his back up because I was implying he was being incompetent. So when we worked it out and go,
only always 5 minutes as well.
Yeah. Literally, because we know this stuff now, it takes us about that long to realise, shit, you know, this is why we reacted. Because it's always something behind it. It's not the real thing, yeah? Your business success and happiness is reliant on your health, and time out is not optional, it is essential. So that is what you've got to do in order for you to keep that passion and energy going. So the bad news is that time flies. The good news is that you are the pilot. So that's what we'll finish it off on tonight. Have you learned a few things? If you take away 2 or 3 things. If you take away 2 or 3 things out of what we said tonight, that's fantastic because you're going to have your own ideas. Now, Stuart, tell us about your upcoming book.
Oh, okay. So, the more and more people that I've been helping mentor in this conversation that come up, it's generally women in business with some form of relationship with their friends or with their partners, with their children that have been struggling. And they're struggling knowing where to let go, where to step up, where to empower, where to nag, where not to. So it's just going to be a combination. I'm talking to quite a few women in the situation, the women that are either the major breadwinners, the women that know there's more in life, that want to step up, but we're finding that there is more and more of this happening and it's going to continue on. Because the women's movement, not the bra movement, the women wanting more out of life is just continuing to grow and grow. So these, 20 years ago, the people that instigated the breakup of relationship was the male. Now, it's so much more, in fact, you'll know, it's the women that are actually instigating this because they're knowing they want more in life. But there is a way that you can actually be support from a man, so it'll be a story from the man's point of view, how he sees it, how you can enable them to continue to grow and add the support from a back end, how you can then step up, how you can own your masculinity, how you know that you can actually be feminine though in a way. Like, now that I own certain aspects of things, it works. Like I'll put a post on Facebook saying, I freaking love windy, warm days because I can get the sheets dried and back on the bed in 3 hours. Seriously, if I 12 months ago, I would never have had the guts to put something like that out there. You know, and I was getting comments and it was, you know, shit, that's awesome. So yeah, it's just going to be, I'm really excited. I'm about 7 chapters through it now, of unpacking it all. So yeah, might get another one done over a little weekend away. But,
what's the working title?
Living with the ultimate entrepreneur.
You came up with
So,
that.
I'll put up.
And we're going to give that away as the door prize, because you know what I'm a big believer in? Is if someone wins it, he has to go through and do it, which he will, I have no doubt. But I'm a big believer that you nip procrastinations on the bar. Is that the same?
No.
Oh,
In Macedonian.
Macedonian. The cure to procrastination is when you make a commitment to someone else. So I pre-sold so many of my books prior to publishing them, and that was my thing, that I had to get it across the finish line. So we're giving away this is the first one we've ever. Yep. So give it away. So you have to get it to the person. When is it going to be out? September. Yeah.
Perfect.
Natalie?
Yep.
Alright, good. He has to. It's just September, he said to me.
Yep.
I'm never going to wait until September.
Yes,
Cool. So on the back table where you registered, there was also little slips with lots of dates. Those are the remainder dates for the rest of the year's events. So if you want to pick up a slip so you can put them in the diary, otherwise you will get the emails. It's just sometimes people like to lock them in ahead of time. Next month we have Justin Cunningham. We have an international speaker from New Zealand coming, and we're going to give him the 2 slots, like so 40-45 minutes to speak. I believe he will be talking, he's about to submit his the topic to me, but it's going to be something around attracting and converting clients. That's where he's been positioning himself. He's a, what is he? He's a beatboxer.
Beatboxer, rapper.
Like he
Very talented.
so doesn't look like it, but he was on TV in New Zealand and all this sort of stuff. He's an amazing speaker. He comes out in when he's on stage and all that. So I'm trusting that I will get a lot of people and be in the bigger room. And anything else? No, that's it. 22nd of May will be our next one, and we won't have as much time to promote it because we won't be in the country up until 4 days before the event, but we'll do our best to do that. And now is our time to informally, casually network with one another. Please feel free to push the chairs aside and let's have some drinks, chats, and talk to Kat, talk to us, and talk to each other. And I trust you've had a great night.